Yo, what's poppin'? Big Ziff here, and today we're going to be talking about Ayaka, the new up-and-coming 5-star for the first Inazuma banner in patch 2.0. Many of you are already going to know this information, but for those of you that don't, you're definitely going to want to stick around as we're going to cover her stats, her attack talents, her passive talents, and her constellations if we have time at the end. Now, just jumping right into it, Ayaka is going to be a 5-star sword user of the cryo element. We know that she might have a role to play in the future story quests in Inazuma because she's of the Kamisato clan, which I think there was hints at that in the live stream in the trailer. And in this video, we're actually not going to be covering any of her ascension or talent materials that she needs. If you want to find out what those are, you can go check my video that I posted yesterday out. I'll leave a link in the description and at the top of the screen somewhere so you can click on it and check it out. Also, if you wanted to know any of the talent information or the materials that you need for Yoimiya, I also made 2 videos on that, which you can also check out. But anyways, back to Ayaka. So if we come down to her base attack, what's interesting is she's actually tied for second in terms of the highest base attack in the entire game. Xiao has the highest at 349, but both Eula and Ayaka have 342 base attack, which puts them in second place. On top of this, Ayaka also ascends with crit damage, which is going to be one of the most useful upgrades to her kit. So her starting crit damage is going to be 50%, just like every other character, but once you ascend her past level 80, it'll actually go up to 88.4% crit damage. So that's really, really good. You'll be able to wear probably a crit rate helmet or use the black sword from the battle pass to get some crit rate onto her kit, but she's going to be very, very strong with that crit damage already built in. Now let's get into her attack talents. So her normal attack performs up to 5 rapid strikes per usual. From what I've seen in some of the leaked footage, her actual sword movement is very, very fast, similar to Kaching, and you obviously know she also has a charge attack and a plunging attack. All this information I'm going to toss up on screen now is from Honey Hunter World again, but this is just to give you an idea of what her multipliers are looking like, and I'll toss up Kaching's next to it or after it just to give you guys sort of a comparison of where they stand, because not only their weapon is the same, but also Kaching ascends with crit damage. So moving on to her second attack talent, it's going to be her elemental skill or her E ability. It's called Kamisato Art Hayuka, I think. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. It says that it summons blooming ice to launch nearby enemies, dealing cryo damage. So if you haven't seen any leaked footage from Ayaka's kit or playstyle from the past couple months, this elemental skill seems to be an AoE attack. So you'll be able to hit as many enemies as falls within that circle or that radius of the blast pretty much. I'll toss up the stats on screen now. You can see that at level 8, the skill damage is 382%, which is actually really good. And the cooldown is 10 seconds, which isn't too bad as well. But yeah, that multiplier seems pretty strong for a sword user. I'm not going to say that these are set in stone because this is all data mined information. So obviously it's still subject to change when we have people summoning for her in the next week or so, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of how her kit is actually going to play out. So she'll be able to do some great AoE cryo damage. I think that Ayaka's kit is going to work really, really well with a lot of team comps, it seems like. Now, the next talent they have listed on the website isn't really an attack talent, I would say, but I guess that's where they include it, and it's called the Kamisato Art Senho. And this is just essentially telling you that she has an alternative sprint, very, very, very similar to Mona's, where you can kind of glide through the ground, across water, that sort of thing. What's really, really cool about this ability that they list here and that you might have seen from certain footage is that when she pops out of the ground, if she's nearby enemies, it'll apply cryo to any of those nearby enemies, and for a few seconds, it'll infuse her sword with cryo. So it's pretty cool because it's just mixed into her sprint, and it actually causes her to have not only a cryo sword, but it automatically will apply cryo if she's really close to enemies when she pops up. Now moving on to her final attack talent, it's called Kamisato Art Sumetsu, and this is going to be her elemental burst. For any of you that have seen that footage, her sword kind of turns into a fan, I believe, and it launches out 3 kind of cryo whirlwinds, I would describe them as, almost similar to like Venti's ultimate, but instead they're kind of like 3 whirlwinds side by side, and the ability is described as a storm of whirling icy winds that slashes repeatedly at opponents it touches, dealing cryo damage, and it also blooms once its duration ends, dealing AoE cryo damage. So it's kind of like a moving wall of cryo, and then once the duration ends, it'll explode one more time for dealing AoE cryo damage. Now I'm going to toss the multipliers up on screen now. They look pretty decent, I would say. They're not too absurd in terms of damage. As this ability continues on, it's going to be continuing to do one of those multipliers repeatedly, so just keep that in mind. The duration is 5 seconds, which doesn't seem too long, but we'll have to see. The cooldown is 20 seconds, and the energy cost is 80, which is going to be a little bit brutal. I think many people are going to be running her with a second cryo unit like Diona or Rosaria or Chongyun or any of those cryo units, really, even the other 5 stars, to kind of give more particles to Ayaka. On top of that, you'll also get the cryo resonance, which should be able to boost her crit rate, which is going to factor in perfectly with Ayaka's kit because she has crit damage ascension. She's going to already have decently high crit damage. She wants to get more crit rate built in, so just having a secondary cryo unit is going to help with that. Now, moving on to the passive talents, her first passive talent is called the Fruits of Reflection. It says whenever Ayaka crafts weapon ascension materials, she has a 10% chance to receive double the product. This passive talent is pretty damn good. If you have Albedo, he has the exact same one, which I do have Albedo, so I know how this works. I will say 10% feels like a low percentage, but when you do get it to hit on like a purple or gold, it's very, very nice. I think that's one of the better passives for this slot, where it's kind of usually a material or crafting refunding talent. I think this is one of the better ones for weapon ascension materials. Now, her second passive talent is very, very strong. I'm not even going to try and pronounce it because I know I'll butcher that name, but it says after using Kamisato Art Hayuka, which is her elemental skill, it says that Kamisato Ayaka's normal and charged attacks deal 30% increased damage for 6 seconds. This is actually huge. Straight up 30% damage boost to normal and charged attacks, which some of the time it's going to be infused with cryo, it sounds like, from her sprint for 6 seconds, which is very, very solid. So it'll be interesting to see how that actually contributes to her damage, but it seems like a strict damage boost to me. So I'm definitely excited to see how that works when people start to actually build her. Now, what's interesting about her third and final passive talent is it's actually made to work with her alternate sprint. And again, I'm not going to try and pronounce this name because I know I'll butcher it, but it says when the cryo application at the end of Kamisato Art Senho, which is her sprint, hits an opponent, Kamisato Ayaka gains the following effects: restores 10 stamina and gains 10% cryo damage bonus for 10 seconds. So this is actually going to be very interesting because I don't think we've seen an ability that restores stamina before. This is just a passive talent too. I think what it's saying essentially is whenever you pop up out of the ground, if it applies cryo to an enemy, it's going to not only restore 10 stamina to you, but it's going to give you a 10% cryo damage bonus for 10 seconds. Again, this is going to work really, really well with her previous talents because when she pops up out of the ground, her blade is already going to be infused with cryo for a few seconds. On top of this, if we talk about her last passive talent, if you used her elemental skill right here, her normal and charged attacks would gain a 30% damage increase too. So I definitely can see some really cool multipliers and builds going on with Ayaka here. So we're just going to have to wait and see how it really plays out. Now, I was going to mention the constellations for Ayaka, but similar to my Yoimiya video, this video is getting pretty long already. And generally, constellations are meant for the whales or the decently high spenders. I will just say that her C1 essentially has a chance to decrease her elemental skill cooldown. Her C2 is going to unleash 2 smaller of those blade storms from her ultimate ability. C3 is just going to level the skill by 3. C4 is actually going to decrease the defenses of enemies that are hit by her ultimate for 6 seconds by 30%. C5 is just going to level her ultimate by 3, and her C6 says that whenever her cryo damage scores a crit, her damage overall is increased by 10% for 3 seconds. It can stack up to 5 times. But yeah, sorry I couldn't really go into depth on those. I think the video is already long enough at this point, and I just wanted to give you guys kind of a general understanding of how Ayaka is probably going to play out. Again, all this stuff is subject to change between now and, a week and a half from now, but I just wanted to kind of inform you guys. That's going to be all for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And other than that, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.